Hi, friends. I am just going to quickly pin this video in our Facebook group. And I want to say hello and good morning or good afternoon to all, or good evening to everyone who is watching. And if you are joining me live, I'd love to know where you're joining me from. So let me just make sure this video is easy for everyone to find. And then we can get started. I've got some slides for you. We're going to talk about a lot of fun things. Pin to featured. It looks like we got about 4 friends joining us so far. And Shelly says, there she is. My slides weren't loading. And also, and hi, Stacy. So we've got Shelly is joining us. And Stacy, I'm so glad that you all are here, and it looks like everyone's kind of filing in and finding me, so I am so grateful for that. I was also knitting a little swatch to show you because we're going to talk about that SSP stitch, and we also have Chantel joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I feel like, was it The Truman Show? Jim Carrey? And we've got hello. So if you'll notice as I pop these banners on the screen, some of them are showing up with our friends' names and profile pictures, and some just say Facebook user. So it is completely your choice. If you would like, there should be a link in the description of the video. You can easily just enable StreamYard is the software that I use in order to go live. Right now we are live in our Facebook group, in the Stitch Society membership group, and we're also live on YouTube. So you can give it permission just to see your name and your profile picture, just like this. That's Debbie with her Angora bunny from Central Pennsylvania. Good morning, Debbie. Or good afternoon, I should say. If not, it is absolutely fine. It's not required to do that. But if you don't mind, when you type a comment or a question for me, just add your name, type your name along with it, and then I'll know who I am chatting with. So let's see. All right, so that is it for the comments for now, and I'm so glad that you're all here. And it looks like my slides have loaded, so that is all good things. And so I'm going to share my screen, and we'll talk about a few different things today. So thank you all for joining me. We've got Sylvia saying hello here. Hi, Sylvia in Florida. And so I will share my screen. Hopefully, there we go. All right, so we are, most importantly, first and foremost, we're going to talk about the knit along, about the LYS Love shawl. Some of you have asked some really great questions, and I want to make sure that I get to answer your questions. So I have some things that have, come up. I want to chat with you about those. And then I have, at the end, we'll do some Q&A with other questions that have come up also. And if you have a question for me, definitely feel free. You're welcome to ask me live here. If I feel like it might take a little bit more to get into the details with you, then I ask you, please feel free. You're welcome to send me a message on Facebook or send me an email at hello@doublethestitches.com. And I'm so thrilled to have you all here. And we also have Sally joining us from Arizona. Good morning, Sally. Okay, so let us dive right in before too much more time has passed. Okay, so let's see how we will do this. And we have Carol from Durham, North Carolina, and Betty Sue is joining us too. So that is fabulous. I'm glad so many of you are watching. So what took me a second to get on live is I made this little swatch, and I worked just that center lace panel of stitches, not even the side stitches, but just the middle part, the part that you repeat across, that has those kind of swoops, some people have called them. The ones that look a little bit almost like they're cables, but they're not. I want to talk about that because I want to make this pattern as easy as possible for you to knit. I want yours to look beautiful. I want you to love it. So someone said, "But, you know, why the confusion about it was confusing them because the pattern is tech edited and the definition of the stitch, the instructions that's on the abbreviations page in your pattern is clear. But if you've never done it quite the way that I do it, then your stitch will look different. And I have a little picture of my swatch because holding it up like this is not enough for you to see. And there are videos on the tutorial page where you can find that. I'll pop that link in the chat in case you haven't found it. So I do go through a video. That stitch shows up in twice in the pattern. It shows up on, I believe it is row 4, and it is on row 6. And it's a purled decrease that is done on, in this case, on the wrong side of your work. It leans to the left. It's a single stitch decrease. And so the instructions, the way that they're written, are slip next 2 stitches one at a time knitwise, return those stitches to the left needle, and purl 2 together through the back loops. Now it's the through the back loops part. It makes the stitch a little bit harder to complete, but it is, in my opinion, absolutely worth it to do. And so some people, you know, I've been researching online. Some people maybe talked about, you know, could this really be abbreviated as SSP, TBL, meaning through the back loop? But this is the conventional stitch abbreviation, and it is recognized as SSP, and you knit through the back loops. So I don't have a video for you here to show it to you, but I do have this picture that I mentioned. And so you can't see where I'm pointing, of course, but I will point out that, and this wasn't even fully blocked. This was like a super quick, I just kind of gave it a quick little burst of steam just to lay it a little bit flat. So on the first section of stitches, I worked the way that it is defined in the pattern, and that is that you're slipping those 2 stitches knitwise one at a time, slipping them back to your left needle and purling through the back loop. It's through that back loop that makes the big difference. So if you look on the left side in the bottom section, you will see that those stitches are, they're open. They are all, in both ways, they're leaning towards the left kind of, but in that top section where that arrow is pointing, you can see that you don't get that smooth line that you do on the bottom. And I kind of drew an arrow to show where one of those are. It kind of, it's twisted. It just doesn't have that same look. And so you, of course, you know, it's your shawl. There's no knitting police. You can knit that stitch however you would prefer, but working those purl stitches through the back loop is 100%, 200% my recommendation. And I do have those tutorial videos for you all. And let me see if I can add that link in the chat for you all. LYS, and it was in your emails, but I know that technology can be a pain. And let's see if this, hopefully that link will show up. If it doesn't show up, I will come back and I'll put it in the comments after our video. Let's see. And we've got, hi, Susan. All right, I think that link is now on both YouTube and Facebook. So hopefully that worked. So that's enough about the SSP stitch. If you have more questions about it, definitely reach out to me so that, that we can talk more about it. But it's demonstrated in the videos for row 4. It's shown knitting both continental with the yarn on your left and English style with the yarn on your right. So that is that. The next thing I wanted to talk to you all about is your stitch count. So a lot of people have mentioned that, you know, when they turn the work, they get towards the end of the row and it's just not quite lined up where it should be. And so the biggest culprit of something like that, where your stitches aren't lining up and they're not looking the way that you expect them to, is your stitch count being off. And there's a couple of common reasons why that might be. So I wanted to chat with you about that. Um, there are two different decreases in this pattern that are written in parentheses, and they both start with a slip one with the yarn in back, and they both end with a PSSO, which is pass that slip stitch over. The difference is that one of them has a knit one in the middle and the other has a knit two together in the middle. So the first one where you're knitting that middle stitch is a one stitch decrease. They both lean in the same direction. On your needles, they might look very similar, and that's why it's important to kind of know that distinction between them. The one mentioned here in the bottom, and these definitions are in the abbreviations of the pattern, you are slipping a stitch knitwise, then you are knitting two stitches together, and then you're passing the slip stitch. It's going over the stitch that was resulting from the knit two together stitch. And again, those are in the tutorials, in the videos for you if you would like to watch me do those. Those are there for you, so you can kind of knit along literally with me, pausing the videos as you need to. The other thing I want to point out is that here I do have my shawl next to me. That works out nicely. So the narrow column of lace, this one right here, right? That is where the slip one with yarn and back knit two together stitch lives. And the slip one with yarn and back, knit one, pass the slip stitch over. That is the decrease that is part of the big swoopy sections. So that's another place to a way to help you remember which stitch you're doing in which place. If you kind of get into a groove and you're knitting kind of not 100%, reading the pattern as you go. So keep that in mind as you knit. The other place where your stitch count might change and be incorrect is those yarn overs. And there's a bunch of them in this pattern, and that's to keep your stitch count consistent throughout so that you don't have to worry about changing stitch numbers. So keep in mind there may be a missing or a dropped yarn over. Either you forgot it or it fell off the needles as you were working the next stitch, or an accidental yarn over, meaning that you have too many stitches, you accidentally put that yarn over the needle an extra time inadvertently. So those are the biggest kind of troubleshooting things that I wanted to mention. I have some more, but if you have questions for me, feel free and ask so that I can help you. I don't want anyone to be on the struggle bus. I'm here. Let me support you through this. The other question that has come up a lot is customizing your shawl, the finished size, how much yarn is used. So I wanted to talk about that with you all too. So within the pattern on that, the page with all the details has a schematic, and that has your finished measurements as well. These are the finished measurements of my shawl. So a lot of people substituted and used different yarn, different fibers, different weights of yarn. Some people went thinner and used more of a sport weight yarn. Some went heavier and used a light worsted weight yarn. So your results may vary, as they say, right? So the center panel, people asked about the width and the size of that. So the height of mine was about 11 inches, I believe. I'm not wearing my glasses. But it looks like it's about 11 inches tall, and the width of it was approximately 40 inches. So if you want to refer back to that, that is in the pattern for you. There was also some questions about how much yarn should you have used up when you finish knitting the center panel. So I checked with some testers, and Shelly was also really wonderful in the group. So thank you for that, Shelly, because she had just finished knitting hers. So she gave some great answers. And so thank you for your kindness and your time to help answer. So I would estimate that that center panel uses approximately 230 to 250 yards. When I knit mine, I just used a third 50-gram ball in my shawl. So I just kind of opened it for like a couple of rows. And the yarn I used was 115 grams per 115 yards per 50 grams. Sorry about that. um, and so it was just over that mark. So that's kind of an approximation, not, overestimated, but a real amount of yarn that I used when I knit mine. And I think Shelly had around the same results, and some others, I think also were in that same situation. So here's what you do if you feel like after knitting the center panel that you might run out of yarn. Betty, I see that you commented, but um, oh, okay. It was a little picture of Betty, and it's not coming through in my StreamYard, but I saw it on Facebook. Okay, so you can divide the remaining yarn for your side panel. So you can finish knitting that center panel, and then you can divide that up, and that will give you a better idea of how much yarn that you will have left. You can use like a food scale is a great way, kind of an inexpensive thing to have around the house, which is great for knitting. If you ever did Weight Watchers, you probably have one somewhere in some closet somewhere. Um, so you can see how much yarn you have left, and then you can divide that yarn for your side panels. Um, while we are on the subject of that, we'll talk about blocking. I was going to do this at the end, but let's talk about it now. So I promise, as a designer, my intent is not to torture you, not even a little bit. I want you to have the best finished result that you possibly can. And I want you to be thrilled with the size of your finished shawl. So what I highly recommend is after you finish knitting that center panel, before you pick up the stitches to knit the side panels, you should block that center lace panel. And here's why. I want you to find the finished measurements of your center panel, and then you can make an informed decision about whether you want to customize the length of your side panels, because that is the stockinette section there is the easiest way, is the easiest place in this shawl to adjust if you want the shawl to be wider or not. So that's the easiest place. You can easily add, an inch or 2 or 3 or whatever of stockinette, or you can subtract some. So I made it really generously sized so that it would wrap really nicely, but I wanted you to have that flexibility to customize it. You also, you your stitches will even out, and it will be easier to pick up the stitches for your side panels. And Shelly also shared something about the yarn. Selene used 3 skeins in a light worsted. I will probably use 2 in sport. And yes, blocking the center helps to make a decision. So I think Selene used, I want to say she used Queensland Falkland worsted, which is a beautiful yarn that I'm working on a different project with. I think she mentioned that when we had our live chat. So that's really helpful to know. And it definitely helps to block it. So another question that came up as far as blocking was about the shawl, the lace scallops, whether you should block those straight or whether you should block them as scallops or as points. And that, I'm going to say, is knitter's choice. So that's really up to you and what look you would prefer for your shawl. So you get to be the boss of your own knitting. You are in charge. You get to be the boss of your project and decide what you would like it to look like. And let's see what else I wanted to chat with you about. Okay. So I want to share that we had the cast on party was so much fun. I'm so grateful to everyone who joined for us. And before I get into the other stuff, the new stuff, the fun stuff, the dates for the knit nights are they're both Saturday evenings, Saturday, May 20th and Saturday, June 10th. Um, okay. Oh, Betty had a question. I'll answer that in a minute. So the knit nights, these are not recorded. These are on Zoom. If you didn't register, you still can. It's doublethestitches.com/LYS Love Live. Should bring you to the page to register for that. And I would love for you all to join me. It's just going to be kind of social, hanging out, working on our projects. If you're one of my testers who knit it and you've moved on to a different project, come join us and we'll just spend some time together getting to know each other. Okay, so let me answer Betty's question. So Betty said that she's been struggling and feeling foolish. SSP is explained, and I missed it, presuming I knew how and didn't read instructions. Don't beat yourself up. Shelly says, Betty, I did the same thing and then watched a video. Um, I highly recommend watch the video on the tutorials page. Watch row 4, whether you knit continental or English style, because there are videos out there. Let me back up and say that's the thing about YouTube and video tutorials is that anyone with a cell phone these days can make videos and post them online. And not every knitter does every stitch, or every designer does every stitch in the same way. And there's different reasons that we might use one version of a stitch over another. So it definitely helps if the designer of the pattern that you are using has videos. I highly recommend, not just myself, but whatever, pattern you're following, if they offer videos, watch the videos from the designer to make sure that you are doing the stitch in the way that they intended for you to do it. So that's my little tip for all the patterns. um, okay. So this is something that was asked for by a couple of people, and I'm excited to share about this with you. Is that we now have a Double the Stitches, a Ravelry group. So it is brand new. The Facebook group is staying put, is not going anywhere. That will, I'll be honest, I spend more time on Facebook than I do on Ravelry. So if you're looking to reach me without a delay, then the best ways to reach me are either tagging me in the Facebook group, sending me a message, or sending me an email. But we are getting the Ravelry group up and running. I think the last I looked, we had about 18 members. So it is, it's slowly growing. I have different threads for a couple of different of my recent patterns for you all. So you can share your projects, talk about them. There's definitely one for the Color Crush shawl. There is one for this shawl. And um, so if Facebook feels confusing, it might be because of the algorithm and the way that Facebook tries to be smart and tries to show you what it thinks you want to see and doesn't show things in a chronological order. They have their reasons for doing it. As a business, Facebook is easier for me. I can schedule things out and all of that, which is great. But Ravelry is fun. Ravelry is a little bit more, I think, maybe logically organized in the threads. So if you're interested, you can take a look. The link is there, and I'll put it for you as well in the comments. So you can join there. But again, the Facebook group is not going anywhere at all. And so it's ravelry.com/groups/double the stitches. And I promise, this is my promise to you, will try to check in as frequently as I possibly can. If not every day, then say every other day. So if it's something important, reach out to me directly. But I'm excited to give you another place where you can connect and communicate with each other and share your projects and all of that. So Ravelry group is brand new. There's about 18 or so members there. So head over there, join them, and get to know each other there. Oh, and we have a comment from Gina, says, I can't start mine until I get back next week. I will watch all the videos before I start. I like to hear that. And Dorothy says, I'm left-handed. Do I need to swap out I think you mean the SSP and slip one, knit one, pass the slip stitch over. I think so. I think that is how left-handed knitters do things, where the decreases lean in the opposite directions. So I believe that's correct. I believe, for example, for knit decreases, I think that I think let me correct myself. I think what you would be swapping would be the SSP and the regular purl two together, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The videos are um okay, so that's the link where the videos are. So it's doublethestitches.com/LYS Love Shawl videos. Within your pattern, there is on that details page, there's a link to doublethestitches.com/learn. And at the kind of at the top there, it does link to this page. So if this is too long to remember, then just go to doublethestitches.com/learn and you'll see those videos. Okay. Um, so I hope that helps, Teresa. And email me when you can with your new email address so I can make sure I get you set up. And so then I also have something special I wanted to share with you all. And that is, let's see, there we go. Okay. So that is a special invitation. And I talked about this, and you may have seen me mention it during our cast on party, but not everyone has had a chance to watch that. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew about this special thing. And I know we've got a couple of our current members are watching. So it's an invitation to you to join the tight knit community called the Stitch Society membership. And you can enjoy the companionship, the camaraderie, and your new favorite yarny friends are waiting to welcome you. And this is a comic if you've been around for a while, you've seen it, but it really just kind of encapsulates everything that I was thinking about when I was initially coming up with the idea for this. And I also wanted to say if you have more questions, definitely add them in the chat. After I talk about this for a minute or two, I'll answer any questions that anyone has about the shawl. Okay, so this is Earl and Opal Pickles, and it is a comic strip, and it's a couple, and and Opal is a crafter. She's a knitter, she's a crocheter, and Earl is her husband. And so she's working on a project on the couch, and he comes over and he says, "What are you knitting?" And she says, "A scarf." And Earl says, "Oh, how do you do that without even looking?" And she says, "Are you really interested in how I do it?" And he says, "No, but I'm pretending I'm interested. Isn't that worth something?" So how many of us have have loved ones in our lives who kind of pretend to be interested but are not quite, they don't really understand our passion for it. They don't really um they pretend that they're interested. It's such a thing for me to have a community of people around me that understand why I get excited about different things, about knitting, about yarn, about crocheting. And I really sometimes feel alone when I'm excited about something and I don't have anyone to share it with. And so this feeling of not wanting to be alone and not wanting to knit alone made me wonder about what if I created a warm and welcoming membership? And what if I filled it with other knitters who feel just like I do? What if I built a place where we could connect with others from the comfort of our homes? What if there was a place where I could channel my love for teaching and for helping other crafters? And what if this helped me with my own passion project, creating more low vision and screen reader accessible patterns to help those who struggle with their vision but still love their crafting time? And so I built the Stitch Society membership. And I'm going to tell you about what's included in it. It's packed, jam packed with so much really just wonderful things. So you get every single month as a Stitch Society member. you get a pattern from me. That's an $8 value at the moment. Those prices are going to be going up over the summer, and it works out. You'll get first access to my newest designs, or sometimes you'll get an option to select a previous design from my portfolio of almost 45 patterns. I looked before I jumped on the call. And you'll also get priority pattern support from me. So if you are struggling with a pattern, struggling with a stitch, struggling with something, reach out as a member, and I will do whatever I can as quickly as I can to try to help you with that. And I have such great stories to share. One example is that Kathy was trying to knit this beautiful lace stitch for a shawl for, at the time, her future daughter-in-law. Her son was getting married and she wanted to gift her daughter-in-law something special. And she had this pattern and she had this chart, and it just didn't make sense. And it happened to be a free pattern from a yarn company that had gone out of business. They were not reachable anymore. There was no contact information. And she shared it with me and she asked if there was any way that I could help. And what I ended up doing was recharting it for her in a way that made it make more sense. It was just, a fairly simple pattern, and we walked through it together. And she knit this beautiful lace weight shawl for now her daughter-in-law in about 2 weeks. So it was an incredible feat, and something that she's grateful for my help. And I have more stories. I'll share those with you over the next couple of weeks. You also get access to my Stitch and Technique library. And so inside there, you will find a growing library of knitting tutorials to rescue you when you're stuck and to help expand your skills. You get to watch the videos on demand whenever you need help. And also, when I do a free training in the group, in the fall, or early winter, we did mosaic knitting. We did a challenge. It was about a week or two long. And all of those videos now, after the event has ended, those live within the Stitch and Technique library for my members to watch whenever they need them. I also just added the basics of getting started knitting with a garter tab cast on for a shawl, and I'm adding more videos for that. We're going to tackle Knit Companion is something else I'm going to add that members have been asking for. Whoops. Okay, we also have monthly private stitch sessions. So you're going to kind of get a taste of what those are like when we have our knit nights on the knit nights for this event coming up. And they are held on Zoom. They are not recorded because they're an opportunity for our members to get together, to connect with one another. And we spend about an hour together. We chat about our knitting. We chat about whatever is going on in our lives. We share our projects, yarn, tips and tricks about life in general, to talk about life in general. Like I said, these are not recorded because I want us to have an opportunity to connect genuinely and authentically, to work on your projects, to implement what you've learned, to ask me questions. If you're struggling with something, I'm happy to help. We have shared so many, magical life events, like the birth of grandchildren and great great grandnieces and all things like that. And we've also been there to support and to comfort each other through some difficult times. And it's really just the most special part of what I do. We also have Fiber Friends interviews, and these are recorded. They are live chats with some of the kindest, most amazingly creative members of the Fiber community. They are for members have the opportunity to attend or watch the replays if the timing does not work with life schedules. We've learned about picking colors for our projects from an indie dyer, Emily at Wool and Palette Yarn. We chatted with my favorite knitting subscription box club owner, Carrie at the Spinning Hand. We learned about life on an alpaca farm from Eagle Bend Alpacas, from Linda and Chris there. We chatted with some fellow knitwear designers. We chatted with with Brenda, Bren JS Designs. We chatted with Aranine Designs and with Jen from JP Knits Things. We saw a sneak peek of a new product from my favorite Notions brand. Dawn from Twice Shared Sheep joined us. We hung out with an Angora bunny from Willow Oak Farm, and we learned about using a spindle from her. And we've also had Erin from Crafty Housewife Yarns joined us and talked about different spinning wheels, and that was so much fun. And it's a nice way to feel connected to the yarn community, the larger community, and to know what things are up to. We also had my two ladies, Alexis. She designs special knitting needles that and crochet hooks and other tools that they're really wonderful for if you have pain in your hands or your joints. They're designed especially for that. Um, and I also recently added a feature that I call unlimited Zoom chats. So this is not what you would pay, but this is the value of it. And so these are opportunities for you to connect with other members, even when I might not be available. There's a special Zoom room for Stitch Society members to use at any time. You get unlimited access. You can knit and chat or crochet and chat with one or more of the friends you make in our community. These are unmoderated since I might not be available. They are also private, and as I said, not recorded, not streamed anywhere, so you don't have to worry about what you share. You can feel free to talk with your fellow members. So, of course, that's not all. Future mini workshops are included. So, in addition to, you also get existing workshops, but future workshops are included. And in June, we're going to do a taste of brioche knitting. And in the fall, we're going to cast on and work on socks together. You get member only voting power. So you can have your say in my designs. If I'm debating different options for a pattern, I might share those in the group and ask what the members would prefer for a pattern that they were working on. You get early access to pattern tester calls for my knit and crochet patterns, which is not required, but some knitters and crocheters enjoy testing patterns. So I give my Stitch Society members first dibs, I like to call it. And we also have an exclusive member only Facebook community group where you can connect with and chat with other members, share some, funny jokes, talk about yarn, talk about, if you have yarn in your stash and you're trying to find patterns for it. It's a great place to get thoughts from other knitters. So you also have our membership hub, because as I was building the membership, I realized that we needed a classroom of sorts. And so I built this online place for you where you can find the dates for upcoming events, have access to my growing stitch and technique library. You can request pattern support and view recordings from Fiber Friends events, view our membership calendar, and more. So when we look at all of that again and we talk about what is included in the membership, when you add it all up combined, it works out to be $88 per month in value. And so when we multiply that out for a year, we're talking about $1,000 in value per year. And in addition to that, you also get you get 3 bonus workshops with on-demand access. So if you're struggling with lace work, if you found that you could use some help with it, I have my beginner's guide to lace knitting workshop. The workshop value is $47. Plus you get $38 additional in bonuses. If you've always wanted to knit cables and you struggle with them, if you'd like to learn how to knit reversible cables, if you'd like to learn how to fix cable mistakes, I have that workshop is also available for you, is also $47, and that has $35 in bonuses. And if you just struggle with fixing mistakes in general, if you want to know how to drop down and fix a mistake where it lies in your pattern, the Oops workshop is perfect for you, and that is a $50 value. And like I mentioned, you get tickets to my live virtual workshops, A Taste of Brioche and Socks Step by Step. And those are $50 per workshop. So that's $317 in workshops alone. And then this is brand new for all our Stitch Society members who were not on the Zoom call. Look for a post and an email from me. You get an ongoing discount on yarn and needles at the Spinning Hand. Carrie is wonderful, and she was so excited to be able to offer this to you all. So her prices are already fabulous because she rescues yarn that needs homes. She rescues yarn from yarn shops who have decided to close their doors, or crafters who, were making things to sell, as a real business. Not She doesn't go to individual people's houses and buy their yarn, but she buys yarn at wonderful, wonderful prices. And she also is offering an additional discount to Stitch Society members for as long as you are a member. And you might be wondering, what does this all cost? It sounds expensive, right? So new member pricing would normally be $27 per month or $270 for a year. But because I like you, I've got you, and I have a fabulous price to offer you right now. And that is, there's 3 payment options so that you can pick the plan that works best for you and your own finances. So nothing is held back. There are memberships out there where, the longer you pay in advance for, the more perks you get. Everything is included in the monthly plan. I don't hold anything back. So for just $21, you can join monthly. I also have an option where you can pay every 6 months, and you get 1 month free when you do that over the course of a year. Or if you pay annually, then you get 2 months free. So annually, of course, is the best deal. It's $210 for the year. But if you prefer the monthly or 6 months, whatever works best for you, those options are all available for you. So this is the information to become a member if you're interested. If you have questions, please don't sit on the fence. The fence, as my mentor Sandra says, the fence is the most uncomfortable place to be. So if this sounds interesting to you, if it's intriguing, if you have a question, you can head over to this page, and there is a list of frequently asked questions. Almost every time someone asks me something, I add it there just because it might help someone else to kind of make a decision. But if you'd like to chat, please reach out, let me know, and we can message back and forth. I'm even happy to set up a quick Zoom, a 15, 20-minute chat. If you would prefer to talk, to speak directly, just reach out and let me know. I'll share a link to my scheduler so you can pick a time that works for you. So it's doublethestitches.com/Stitch Society. And I would love to have you as a member. I would love to welcome you into the membership. It is really the heart of everything that I do. I have a business coach, Anastasia, who recently asked myself and other fiber businesses. She asked about, what is your business model? What is your business about? And my business is about community. My business is about helping people, from the Stitch Society membership to these different in-depth knit alongs with training videos to help you through it all. There's designers that have, they'll do a knit along and then they'll share links to existing videos on YouTube. I want you to learn from me. I want to be able to teach you. I discovered working in a yarn shop how much I really enjoyed helping knitters and crocheters learn different stitches and learn things. And so this membership gives me that ability to help more of you, and to also have that tight knit, close community where, kind of like Cheers, where everyone knows your name. And we get together on Zoom and we have a really nice time together. And I would love to connect with you. I would love to invite you. I'd love to have you join the membership. And our members in our Stitch Society private group are there. They're so kind. They're so wonderful. They're so helpful. No one ever feels like, as soon as you post a question on the internet and you worry about, you take a deep breath and you worry, like, what kind of answers are you going to get? Are you going to get kindness, or are you going to get people giving you answers saying, oh, you should know that, or I can't believe you did it that way, or I can't believe you didn't read that? And you'll find, no one is pretentious. No one expects anyone um, to know anything. Everyone is just wonderful and willing to help and to answer questions. And I'm there to help rescue you when you are stuck. Okay, so thank you all who have been watching. If you have questions about the membership, if you have questions about the pattern, feel free, ask them in the comments. There was one more question I had gotten that I am going to answer now, but please don't struggle. Let me help. So this is kind of the Q&A section, and that question was about gauge. And so I did answer it in the comments section in the help thread in the group, but I wanted to chat with you a little bit. So as I've mentioned, the yarn that I used is a superwash yarn. And if you've ever knit with superwash yarn, you'll know that when you block it, it grows, and not just a little, but a lot. And so if you want your finished shawl to be the size of my finished shawl, that's why I highly recommend blocking, so that you can have ideas of what your finished shawl size will end up as. If you are using a similar type of yarn and a similar weight yarn, you want to um, think about your gauge, and you want to measure. You want to block your swatch that you make, and you want to measure it. And so if you have more stitches per inch, more stitches in an inch or in 4 inches than the gauge of the pattern. So the gauge of the pattern is, I believe, I'm going to double check so I don't give you the wrong answer. The gauge in my pattern, in my swatch, was 18 stitches, and it was 21 rows. And so if you have, for example, 21 stitches instead of 18 stitches, then if you divide that, that's over 4 inches. So if you divide that by 4, then 21 stitches is 5¼ stitches per inch, as compared to 18 divided by 4 is 4½ stitches. So if that number is higher, then that means that your stitches are smaller than my stitches, because more of them fit into that same inch space. So if you want fewer stitches per inch, if you want to change that 21 to 18, then you're going to want to use a larger needle, a bigger needle. Our instinct is to go down in needle size. In this case, you actually want to go up in needle size. So I used a 5.5mm needle, which is a US 9. And so if you wanted to make your stitches larger, then you can go up to a 6mm, which is a US 10, to make your stitches larger. I put here one exception, but really two exceptions. So one exception is if you love the fabric that you made with the needles that you used for your swatch, and you have extra yarn, then you could continue on with the needles that you were using. Just keep in mind that your yarn usage is going to be different than mine. The other exception is if you are using a yarn that is, by its nature, say, much heavier or much lighter than the yarn that I used, then it may not be possible to get to match my stitch gauge. And in that case, you want to make your swatch with a needle. You want to like the fabric, of course, and then you want to consider what your options are. So if you're using a much thinner yarn, then what you're going to want to do is maybe you want to add some repeats. Those can be horizontal repeats, meaning that you cast on more stitches. Those can also be vertical repeats, meaning that you knit more repeats. So either one of those are going to use up more yarn, of course. And if you're using a smaller needle, you're doing, say, the stockinette section, it's going to take, with a smaller needle, it's going to take more rows, more knitting, in order to reach the length of those side panels that as it's written into the pattern. But it's really easy to customize that part. It's easy to cast on additional repeats of the pattern. I will just quickly look at the chart so I can tell you. So if you are wanting to add additional repeats, the center lace panel is 15 stitches. And then so and it's additional 5 stitches for that extra narrow column. So these are the stitches that are in that red box. So if you are looking to adjust your stitch count, you can add or subtract 20. Shelly's answering. Thank you for saving me from counting. Thank you, Shelly. So you're going to adjust your stitch count by 20 to add a repeat, or if you're using a much heavier yarn or you want that lace panel to be narrower, then you can subtract 20. So up or down 20 stitches will help you if you're using lighter yarn you want to add. If you're using a much heavier yarn, like say a worsted or an Aran weight yarn, then you want maybe to use less. There was also, I didn't get to make a pretty slide for it, but there was in the comments in the help thread, there was a question about substituting yarn and wanting to use yarn that is not wool, yarn that is meant for warmer climates or warmer weather. And so I know that some knitters used bamboo pop, which is a wonderful bamboo yarn. It's a thinner yarn, so you will probably use more yarn and more repeats, and that is an option. It has a really lovely drape. I knit something, a different project with it, and I used a US 5, but that was knitting kind of as expected. So if you still wanted it to be big and drapey, then you could use maybe a US 7 and swatch it and see, how you feel. Anytime that you are substituting a yarn, you're going to want to swatch and make sure that you like the fabric, especially if you're changing your needles and your yarn, all of that. Another yarn that is a DK weight yarn is Jody Long has a yarn called, I think it's called Summer. I am just double checking so I don't give you the wrong information. So Jody Long Summer Delight is also a DK weight yarn, and it's 90% organic cotton and 10% cashmere. And that is something that you might want to give a try. And that is a yarn, I think that what I remember, I think you were able to possibly make the shawl out of, I don't remember if it was 2 skeins or 3. You can adjust side panels on that so that you end up having to open an additional skein of yarn. I'll post that in the comments. I'll go back and find that. I know that that was one of the yarn shops used that. That was, I think that was Nitty Gritty Yarn Girl used Summer Delight. So you can look in the projects on the Ravelry page. Actually, let me share that super quick. And then if anyone has questions, definitely feel free to ask those. All right. So let me remove this and I'm going to share super quick. I know we've been on a bit here. Okay, so this is Ravelry. This is the page for the shawl. And if you head up here to the top to yarn ideas, you can see what some other knitters have used or are using. So they may not have completed the project yet, but they may have added what their yarn is. So Universal Pop is a nice option for something that won't be too hot, too warm. And I don't know if there were others here that Eurobaby Creative DK is also, that might be alpaca. But so you can get some ideas here. Tosh Wool and Cotton is another option. That is also a DK, so it's half merino and half Pima cotton. So that is something to consider. But I always get so inspired looking at projects from other knitters, so you can see what others have used. This is using the Universal Yarn Bamboo Pop. And so you can see what it looks like. And I do think that she went down in needle size. And this is Sati from Rose and Roses. And does she include the needle that she used? She also used a 9. So it's nice and big and open and drapey. And Shelly is also sharing that let's remove that. Okay. That the chart shows the repeat part that's in the red box, and that's how she knew how many stitches to add for a lighter weight yarn. Okay, so does anyone have any questions for me? Anything that you're wondering about, whether it's the membership or the pattern? Of course, we will have more of these kind of Zoom check-ins. And the absolute last thing I'm going to say, and then I will let you go, is that I am going to make things a little bit sweeter, a little bit more interesting. So, what I'm asking you to do is when you cast on your project, go to Ravelry, create a project, and share your pictures of your knitting. And after we wrap things up with the knit nights, then we'll have another live like this. And I will pick some random winners of knitters who created a project and showed their project um, in Ravelry. And there will be prizes. We'll also have pattern parades each week. So if you post your progress in the group, I will add that and we'll do a little slideshow and we will talk about any questions that have come up during the week. But in between those live chats, feel free to post in the group and ask me your questions. And I see we have a question. Did you say you used a knit two together cast off for the center panel? So when I knit my shawl, I used a standard bind off for mine, but some of my testers preferred a stretchier bind off because they wanted to make sure that lace would really kind of open up and not be too tight on that bind off edge. So basically you knit 2 stitches, you slide them back to the left needle, you knit 2 together, you knit 1 more, slide back to left needle, knit 2 together. It sounds a little complicated, but on that tutorial page, there is a video for you that shows you how I did it. So you can use your cast off of choice. There's also a stretchy how to make long tail cast on stretchy is also in there. And Katrina's watching us on YouTube and says, no questions from me, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for the pattern support. I am learning so much. That really makes me so happy. It warms my heart to know that others are learning. I've put a lot of work into this, and so I'm so thrilled that it is helpful. I like to, as a knitter, when I'm knitting something, I like to make sure that each project has something I haven't done before because I really truly feel that that is the best way to learning and to tackling new techniques, to learning new things, to adding in. And I consider myself a lifelong learner. And I really enjoy teaching what I know to you all. So if there are no other questions, then I will say adios and I will just share quickly. Again, if you have questions about the membership, I am here and I would love to chat with you, whether it's back and forth in messages or emails, or we can set up a quick Zoom and talk. Let me know what you're wondering. The membership will be open for a couple of more weeks, but then we are going to close the doors again. And the reason that I do that is to moderate the growth of the membership and make sure that I have the opportunity to really love on and welcome members in and make sure that they feel supported and cared for. And so I would love to have you join us and be one of those members. So doublethestitches.com/stitch society. And I will also share the link again for the tutorial videos. Is doublethestitches.com/LYS Love Shawl videos. And reach out, let me help you. Don't struggle alone. That is not what I want for any of you. And what else do we have? Says, thanks. I ended up ripping out and restarted using the correct SSP. It is going well. I'm so happy to hear that, Connie. Thank you. I'm glad that that you're making progress and that you're happy with it. And Rosemary says, thank you for the information. Shawl is taking a short break to complete some baby things. How exciting. And to gather my thought on this project. So definitely, if you have questions about it as when you are ready to get started again, reach out and let me know how I can help. All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you all soon. This video is recorded, so you can come back and rewatch anything anytime. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.